Hello, my fellow robots and ponies. This is the leader of the Death to Normies party, and I've taken over the channel from the asshole who normally runs it. My army of 8chan users have assumed direct control of this channel, and we're going to right a great wrong that has been carried out against our hero, against the greatest member of the Death to Normies party ever. A 5-time winner of the Comfy Pepe Medal of Honor. A man who exemplifies everything an anti-normie can and should be. A man who we have decided to endorse as our official candidate for the 2020 election. I speak, of course, of the one, the only Yandere dev. We decided to endorse him instead of Trump this time because Trump didn't legalize memes and he didn't make anime great again. He also was going to have a Manhattan Project to make cat girls real, and that got blocked by the House of Representatives. I mean, they couldn't fund the wall or the cat girl project, so screw Trump. Yandere dev is our new candidate. So, for those of you who are not aware, Yandere dev is a visionary. He was a man, had an idea. He wanted to make the normies pay. Not only did he want to make the normies pay, he wanted to teach kids, a new generation, how to make normies pay, including female viewers. And that's pretty cool. While the Death to Normies party has enjoyed a lot of success among 2D women and ponies, 3D women have proven very elusive. Normally because there's a tendency among our people to yell, whatever talking to them, but with his great courage and foresight, Yandere dev has managed to not only talk to them, but to convince them of the evil of the normies.
55% of Yandere Simulator's fanbase is female.
And the need to carry out our global revolution, to banish the 3D world into the first dimension where it belongs. So the game itself is a propaganda tool created to teach children how to make the normies pay. Now, he was able to avoid making it a school shooter game because that would be too controversial. Instead, it's kind of like the official Death to Normies party video game that we put out a couple years back called Hatred. But instead of that, it has cute anime girls in it, which makes it the best game of all time because it combines killing normies, particularly Stacy's, but we'll get into that in a moment, with anime, with QT anime waifus. And so it's the greatest thing ever made by a human, more or less. In the game, you play as Yandere-chan, a girl who has become bitter and jaded by her exploitation at the hands of Stacy's, and their attempts to prevent her husbando senpai from noticing her. Now, I think something, and a design decision that was made in this game, is there's basically no dialogue and no interaction. The characters, as far as I know, don't even really have names, or if they do have names, they aren't very prominently displayed within the game. But I think that's deliberate. I think it's because it's kind of a Jungian, it's tapping into Neoplatonic Jungian archetypes to try to create a more transcendent video game experience. Yandere-chan is not so much a character as a timeless representation of the Hyperborean background and the neo-traditionalist, neo-feudal world. So, some of the archetypes in this game is you have the lover archetype in Yandere-chan, the hero is senpai, the sage is that girl you talk to on your cell phone. She's kind of like the Obi-Wan Kenobi, but with more panty shots. The rebel archetype is the delinquents in the new DLC, and Osana-chan is your shadow. So it's kind of the classic hero's journey, but with more Jungian background to it. So how it works is a bit like if you've ever seen the movie Highlander, there can be only one. And Connor kind of completes his redemption and becomes a full person by killing all the other immortals, absorbing their power and wisdom, and winning the prize. In this case, it's kind of like Highlander because you kill all your rivals and you absorb their humanity, kind of like in Dark Souls. So by the end of the game, once you've killed all of your rivals and absorbed their feminine virtue, you truly become a woman worthy of being noticed by senpai. The game is also an interesting kind of subversion or deconstruction of traditional gender roles, because it's targeted towards females instead of most hentai games, which are targeted towards males. And like I said, this is a brilliant attempt to kind of expand the Death to Normies party appeal. And it proved very controversial. In particular, a lot of the ponies felt we'd stop paying attention to them if we let 3D women in. but I was able to convince my harem of ponies that I wouldn't breed with the 3D women. That's for lesser men. So don't worry, ponies. I still love you. You're still my preference. The other kind of subversive part of this is Senpai's obviously a Chad. He's athletic. He's good looking. He gets good grades. People don't throw up in disgust when they see him. But we see this struggle within him where his inner Melvin keeps trying to break out. He tries to leave the Chad behind and become a Melvin worthy of his Auntie Stacy lover. And throughout the game, you do things like you steal soap from him so he can't bathe anymore. You post a bunch of hentai pics on his Facebook account so people stop liking him, etc. You put some pony porn in his locker, and eventually he becomes a social outcast just like you. And the game hopefully will end with you two blowing the school up as kind of a apotheosis. If you've seen that picture, apotheosis of Nelson, that is how this game is going to end. So truly, it is the greatest love story since Lolita, and represents a fulfillment of Nietzsche's Übermensch and Julius Evola's aristocrat of the soul. So, my fellow Melvins, I present to you a tribute to my hero Yandere Dev, and why he should be our next president. But before we start to break down what makes him such a great candidate, there's just a little speech he wants to give that I think summarizes the entire platform of the Death to Normies Party.
A normie is a normal person. A person who has a social life, leaves their house, goes to parties, has friends, has relationships, and has interests other than anime and video games. Normies are not allowed here. This is a weeb-only channel. Normies, get out! Whee!
Firstly, and most importantly, the biggest characteristic any Death to Normie Party member needs to have is a complete rejection of 3D women. Now, as I've talked about in the past, 3D women are a corruption. They're the fallen state of the pure platonic ideal of females, which are the 2D women. You see, once we came from Hyperborea, but behind the wall of red ice, humanity split into two. The perfection of form was given to the white race. We look like what we used to look like in the 2D era. Whereas the Japanese were given the perfection of essence, and so they were able to create their memories of Hyperborea in the form of anime characters. Most of the anime characters look white, so once you kind of get these two things combined together, the eternal male and female, you're able to transcend the 3D realm and return to the 2D realm. So that's a true aristocrat of the soul, is a man who says, screw 3D women, my waifu, the love of my life, is a 2D woman.
Of course I have a wife. Her name is Zero Suit Samus. Her name is Samus Aran, and she is a bounty huntress, and she hunts bounties in her spaceship. She flies around the galaxy and she shoots Metroid, and she's married to me. We're married. We're husband and wife. Every day I come home from work after a hot day of slaving over a hot keyboard. And I say, honey, I'm home. And she runs to me wearing her Zero suit and an apron, with her boobs jiggling as she runs to me. And she says, welcome home, honey. And she gives me a big, sloppy, wet kiss with lots of saliva on the lips. And I say, it's so good to see you, honey. And I kiss her back. And then she says, okay, darling, would you like to take a bath, have dinner, or would you like me? And then she unzips her Zero suit a little bit. And I always say, I want you, honey. And then right there in front of the front door, almost before the front door is even closed.
And he treats his waifu with the kind of love and affection we would expect out of a true member of the party.
It's okay, honey. You don't have to last long. It's okay if you could only last 1.5 minutes this time, honey. I still love you anyway. It's okay. Don't worry, it was good for me, sweetie. 1 minute and a half is fine, sweetie. Don't be sad. Please stop. Please stop crying.
Not only does he live the life of a lover of the 2D woman, but he spreads his message to impressionable children. The fact is, most of his fan base is probably 11, 12, maybe 13-year-olds if you're feeling lucky, but he gives them M-rated content on a daily basis. Like, here's a new kiddie-friendly feature that he's working on implementing. Once again, just a sneak peek.
If the player can do a massive favor for one of the delinquents, he will owe Yandere-chan a debt that he cannot possibly repay. Instead, he will connect Yandere-chan to someone who can repay the favor. Yandere-chan will be able to meet the delinquent's older brother, a man who is involved with organized crime, drug trafficking, organ trafficking, human trafficking, kidnapping, assassinations, a man who specializes exclusively in the most dangerous crimes. And much like InfoChan, he would offer a menu of services. He would provide everything that is too outlandish for InfoChan to be able to acquire, such as illegal weapons and hard drugs, both of which could be used to eliminate rivals more easily. The first favor he provides to Yandere-chan would be free, as payback for helping his younger brother. But afterwards, if Yandere-chan continues to request his assistance, he would expect to be paid for his services. Paid with a special form of currency: fresh human bodies. Yandere-chan would follow the usual process of befriending someone, leading them into a storage room, tranquilizing them, putting them in an instrument case, and then transporting them out of school at midnight. But instead of taking them home, Yandere-chan would meet up with the Yakuza and hand over the victim. After delivering enough victims, the Yakuza would be willing to perform a favor. He could provide drugs or weapons, but he could also assist in the elimination of a rival. In exchange for enough bodies, the Yakuza would be willing to kidnap one of Yandere-chan's rivals. Afterwards, her organs would be harvested and sold on the black market. Or perhaps she would be smuggled to an Eastern European country where she would meet a very morbid fate. The player would never see firsthand exactly what happens to the rivals that are abducted by the Yakuza. The most you would see is a text message confirming that the deed is done. Some things are best left to the imagination.
He has got them involved with a game in which you go into a school and you kill people because you have a childish crush on senpai. And I think that's a lesson that our children need to learn, is that it's never okay to be a normie. It's never okay to live by the degenerate expectations of the modern world. So I just like to show you a little bit here, the kind of merchandise and the kind of message that he's delivering to our children, and to create the next generation of party members.
Then you need a Yandere Simulator t-shirt.
Wow!
Have you ever wanted to look down and see a Yandere girl with a knife crawling on your chest? Well, if you purchase a Yandere Sim t-shirt, that's exactly what you'll get, without the risk of death. Do you need an easy and convenient way to drink the blood of your enemies? How about a Yandere Sim coffee mug? In addition to being used as clothing, these shirts can also be used as lethal weapons to eliminate your enemies. Allow me to demonstrate. Let's pretend that you're in love with Pikachu Senpai. But Mario-chan has been flirting with your senpai.
Mamma mia!
First, wait until senpai isn't looking. Then, fold it over, come in over the top, wrap the shirt around his neck, and squeeze until he turns blue. Then, just toss the corpse over a cliff. There you go, rival eliminated, and senpai never even knew what happened. It's objectively better than being stabbed to death. I promise.
But he goes above and beyond that. Not only are his t-shirts accompanied by an instructional video for the kids, of course, on how to kill their rivals using it, but he sells a true aristocrat of the soul's weapon. In ancient times, the Romans had their gladius, and then in the medieval ages, a man had his sword. And then in Japan, they had the katana, and they said that the katana was a samurai's soul. Now, in my case, my soul is my pony waifus, but he does the next best thing. He gives something that I think is the sort of thing that every child needs in their lives in order to fully become an adult.
But don't worry, you don't have to be alone ever again. You can simply buy a date. As of now, you can purchase official Yandere Simulator body pillows. I'm not kidding. This is real. These things actually physically exist. I'm serious. You can choose between 2 different art styles, so you get a body pillow that suits your taste. The front shows her loving side, and the back shows her dangerous side.
But not only is he providing this to male members of the Death Normies party, but to female ones as well.
Maybe they'd prefer a body pillow of Yandere-kun instead. Just look at those eyes. He wants you, and he wants to kill anyone who's ever looked at you. Yandere-chan and Yandere-kun will love you forever. And ever. And ever.
I think this is a good thing to sell to his 12-year-old fan base. I've already bought 7 myself, and I'm trying to breed with them as we speak. So sorry if you hear some background noise. My hope is that by breeding with the 2D waifus on the body pillows, well, I'm a 3D man, unfortunately, so I'll be able to create 2.5D waifu children. And they will serve as the foot soldiers of the Death to Normies party as we go into the new age. Now, as I've said in the past, my first harem will always be my ponies. Because, like I've said, the half-pony, half-human children, who I like to call Chirons, will LARP with me as Greco-Romans, and they will be the generals of the new age, but the 2.5D people will serve as the foot soldiers in the new Death to Normies party empire. So, being in love with the 2D waifu and having carnal relations with her eventually transfers some of her powers into you. Like I said, this is kind of like Highlander, but IRL. And he's become so powerful, he's able to alter time. As we'll see in a minute, this man commits something like 12 hours a day or more, spends all of his waking time working on it, and yet he's somehow able to stream on average 4 hours a day. He can stream 4 hours a day while also working 14 hours a day plus on his video game. And if you start to add up all the time he puts together, it equals a lot more than 24 hours and more than however many hours there are in a week, but that's just his superpowers. So he's able to stream 4 hours a day. He's managed to stream 150 hours of Zelda Breath of the Wild, 175 hours of Persona 4. And I mean, this is all time that he's able to use because he can create time using his Hyperborean superpowers instead of working on the game. But he's not taking time away from working on the game because he has superpowers. And look, he streamed 100 hours in the last 30 days. And I think that just shows the commitment that this guy has to give his fans the quality content that they deserve. I mean, his commitment is so great, like any true Death to Normies member, he doesn't even bathe anymore.
Oh yeah. My fingernails got long. My fingernails got long. It's because I spent all my time working on Yandere Simulator. I don't have time for personal hygiene.
He's made these sacrifices for you, and he hasn't gotten a single damn thing in return. I mean, just look at his Twitch. He's only gotten over $1,000 from this guy and several $100s from all these other people. Like that's nothing. That's nothing. I mean, everybody gets those kind of donations on Twitch. I mean, last stream he got at least $15 in donations plus ad revenue plus subscribers, which I don't think there's any way to tell how many subscribers someone has. But it doesn't matter. Like, this dude gets nothing in return. He gets... Oh. No, that Social Blade's wrong, guys. Social Blade is always wrong. Okay, sure, it says that he gets millions of views a year and probably makes like $100,000 or something. Yeah, like even if you assume a low CPM of 1, that would still be about $11,000 a month, plus the money he's getting on Twitch, which I don't know how you calculate how much on Twitch, probably a couple $1,000s. So he's only making $14,000 a month. I mean, everybody makes that much. But like this game is his baby. He does this for you, not for the money. And I mean, look at his Patreon. He only gets another $4,000 a month on Patreon, plus merchandise, plus miscellaneous donations. This dude is running this as a fucking charity. And you ungrateful pieces of garbage, you detractor fans, you don't appreciate it. Here, I'm going to show you a video now where he talks about the amount of time he spends on this. He doesn't spend time on, he spends no time on Twitch. He spends every waking minute working on Yandere Simulator. This 100 hours in the last 30 days, this average of 4 hours a day, that is him time traveling. You know it, I know it, the fan base knows it.
I quickly realized that I was going to make very little progress on the game's code if I only worked a normal 8-hour workday. So I started working longer and longer hours. Eventually, I removed everything else from my life. Friends, exercise, hobbies, etc., so I could focus 100% of my attention on Yandere Simulator.
I know what those lying detractors are saying. They're saying, okay, well, Twitch isn't anywhere on his schedule. If he's spending every waking moment, he said he didn't have any hobbies or anything outside of working on the game. How does he have time to stream 4 hours a day? Like I said, it's time travel. It's time travel. Just ignore what he said there. He does actually spend that amount of time. This is time he created with his Hyperborean superpowers.
Eventually, my life became a non-stop loop of work and sleep. It's been this way for over 2 years now. Ironically, this is what my life was like 5 years ago when I worked at a video game company. This kind of lifestyle was absolutely unbearable, which is why I decided to quit my job and became
a professional NEET.
This is why I work on Yandere Simulator 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and don't take any vacations.
Now, some might question why it is that this game isn't done yet. It's been 4 years. He's been getting like $200,000, $300,000 a year. Why isn't it finished yet? And the reason is you ungrateful pieces of shit, you detractor fans. It's your fault. It's all your fault that this game isn't done yet.
The biggest obstacle that I am facing. If this one obstacle could be removed, I would have much more time to work on the game, and the game's development would go by much faster. The problem is email. This is a problem that I have mentioned various times in previous videos and blog posts. I'd love to stop bringing up this subject, but that can only happen when it stops being the biggest problem I'm facing. I receive an avalanche of emails every single day. Depending on how much email I get, sometimes I spend between 8 and 12 hours going through my email.
He works on the game 12 hours a day, he answers email 8 hours a day, and he streams 4 hours a day. And somewhere within that 24 hours, he's able to find time to sleep. But you ungrateful people, you keep sending him email. You think he could just stop reading that email? No, he can't, because he loves you so much. Because you are all his waifus.
Leaving me with no time left in the day to write code for the game. When you send me a stupid email, you are actively sabotaging the game's development. If you want this game to come out faster, you should not email me unless it's absolutely necessary.
But it gets worse than that. People try to interact with him IRL. Not only those pieces of shit send him emails in cyberspace, but they want to talk to him and interact with him because they like him. It's just, it's the worst. I don't know how he manages.
I've been invited to anime conventions to speak at panels, and declined so I could have more time to work on Yandere Sim. I've been asked to do interviews, invited to podcasts, invited to parties, invited to weddings, and always declined because I didn't want to do anything that would take my time away from Yandere Sim.
Once again, streaming 4 hours a day on Twitch is not taking time away from Yandere Sim. The person who usually posts on this channel, this Argent asshole, this person who doesn't appreciate true video games development skills, he criticized Yandere Dev for streaming on Twitch. He said, look, the guy clearly stated that he spends every waking moment, he has no hobbies, he has no other job other than making the video game, and he clearly spends like 15 to 20% of his time, which is actually more if you take out... Well, he doesn't sleep because he's a Hyperborean. So if you looked at his waking time, it would probably be like 20% or more. But he doesn't spend that time because he time travels. And it's unfair to hold him to the standard that he set for himself. It's not as if people are donating money to him with the expectation that he's going to work the hours he says he's going to work. Because he is working those hours. Because he can time travel. And he's putting in incredible new content like this. Now, some jokester made this to make fun of Yandere Dev's coding skills. Apparently, the whole game is coded with else-if statements, and I don't know anything about the game, and given the quality of the game, if Yandere Dev thinks that else-if statements, if he thinks the way he codes the game is the best way to do it, then I believe him. I put my money and my trust in him. Other people criticize it, saying that all the assets in the game are just Unity Store assets that he either stole or purchased and recolored. I say that's just really the game would take another 4 years if he didn't take those assets. I remember when I took a great programming class once, the professor said, "Good programmers code, great programmers steal other people's code." And he's certainly stolen a lot, but this is good. I think this is a brilliant strategy. I think that the people who criticize them are just jealous. I just think they're jealous that they live in their mother's basement, and that's the only reason anyone would criticize them is because they're jealous. Now, I think another cool feature that was put into the game is it's a really good benchmarking software. Some might say that the game is very poorly optimized to the point that it brings my i7 16 gigabyte 960 GTX to its knees, and it can't even run it at a stable frame rate despite looking like it's at least 10 years old. But that's just part of what makes it so great. It's not only is it a game, but it's also a benchmarking tool in one with anime girls. Didn't you ever wanted a benchmarking game with anime girls? I always did, and he delivered on that. The fact that it can't run properly is one of the many things that makes it charming. Now, there's not much content in the game. You can't really do anything. But it's kind of like an Atari 2600 game. What makes it so great is you have to use your imagination. You have to imagine what's going on in the game when you do it. So I have to say, the game itself, I'm not going to go into detail about it. Other people have. But it's the best game ever. And when it's finished... Well, it doesn't need to be finished because this dude, it's so hard. His life is so difficult. He's doing this as a charity. His fans are so demanding. I mean, just look at his videos. Just look at all the detractor fans. Let's just open a random video. Look at the like to dislike ratio. It's only 20-1. How does he deal with the amount of just hate that he gets? He only gets 1.5 million views and twice 20 to 1 likes to dislike. Like the hate he receives on a daily basis relative to his performance is just astounding. So this was why, along with many other reasons, why Yandere Dev is the greatest man who's ever lived, the greatest programmer who's ever lived, and why the Death to Normies Party is endorsing him for President of the United States. So I'd like to leave you with a very special message from Yandere Dev. So after you watch this video, go donate to his Patreon, go subscribe to him on Twitch. Actually do it with several accounts, and watch his videos and thumbs them all up. So I'd like to thank everybody for watching, and always remember, you have to make the normies pay.
Nobody can take photographs of your panties if you're not wearing any panties.